it didn't give me my individual stats, it gave me the entire stats. So when I read it, I was like, how much blood have I given this year? Hit. So welcome to the Marketers of the Universe podcast. We are at episode 8. It is February 2024, which is a date that kind of feels like it's from a sci-fi movie. We are scratching the surface of a couple of meaty topics today. Because we only have 5 to 10 minutes per topic, there is sometimes more that we could go into. If you do want more detail, do make sure to go and check out our resource hub at brewdigital.com/resources. Today, we're talking about working efficiently and humanly when remote. We are talking digital marketing strategies. We are looking at how to present data in an interesting way. And we're also looking to try and educate and stop some of the fear-mongering that's going around about cookies. Anyway, let's get on with the podcast. I'm Hayden Woods-Williams, and this is Marketers of the Universe. Our first topic today is looking at strategic approaches to digital marketing. Hopefully helping you start the journey of putting a digital marketing strategy together or refine your digital marketing strategy. With us today, we have 4 of the Brew Digital team. We have Debbie from our social media team. We have Mark Bundle, who is from our email team. Rich, who is our head of digital marketing services, and Kieran, who is an account manager. So kicking things off, what are the key things someone should be thinking about when it comes to digital marketing strategy? Debbie, can we start with you, please?
For me, when it comes to digital marketing, I think it's very important for companies to always make sure that they keep their strategies to be adaptable and ready to adjust. I think that the nature of anything that is in the digital landscape, it's always ever-changing, always growing. Apart from that, you see trends come and go, and there's always things happening. Case in point, the pandemic, where everybody shifted to the digital universe.
Thanks, Debbie. Rich, have you got anything to add to that?
I'm going to keep banging the drum, as we've talked about a lot on these podcasts, but have a customer-centric focus to your digital strategy. And I mean, beyond personalization in emails, hi, first name, that is not personalization. I mean, really focus in on the customer. Build your strategy around your ideal customer profile. Think about it more of the kind of a flywheel approach. So the customer is in the middle, and then everything else is constantly evolving around that central focus.
We will come back to the flywheel in a minute, but I want to just linger a little bit on that ideal customer profile or client profile, whatever you want to call it. Customer persona, some people call it. It's really hard to make things like that. How do you make that not rubbish and fake? And how do you make that real? I'm going to chuck this to you, Mark.
Research. I think we've touched on this before in the previous podcast. But if you're not sure about something, you're not sure who your customers are, ask them. Go out, find who you're selling to. If you've created a brand new thing from scratch, presumably you are trying to fill a gap in the market to do something. Who are you trying to help with that product? If you need to go out or you do need to go create an ICP or a persona or whatever you want to call it, ask people. You can't do that on your own. You need to actually get the information from the people that you're trying to do business with, the people whose lives you're trying to help.
It is research, like Mark says. It's you have to fundamentally have a complete understanding of who they are. And that kind of probably follows into talking more about refining your data so there's no grey areas, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later, but it's all inherently kind of linked.
Be data-driven in your decisions, track and analyze performance, do your research, really understand the marketplace, really understand where you fit within that marketplace, but also don't be afraid to embrace experimentation. Try things, be different. Don't just be a copycat and follow because someone else is doing something, they're successful at it, that you're just going to replicate it and expect the same results. Think about how you can position your brand in a different way so that even if your competitors are targeting the same ideal customer profile, which inevitably they will be, how do you create that standout? The stuff that does work, build on that and grow on it.
I know a lot of people who listen to this podcast tend to be parts of maybe smaller enterprises, businesses, growing businesses. How important is it for a company like that to actually have a digital marketing strategy?
I mean, how important is it for a company to grow? Unless you're in a really, really niche sector, you're going to need an online presence these days. And just being there and kind of hoping that somebody's going to find your website, that's not going to do you any good. Word of mouth, if you can get it, by all means, fantastic. But otherwise, you're going to need to promote your social channels. You're going to need to maybe use some Google ads and paid ads to drive traffic through. But unless you're doing that in a focused, concerted way across different channels, you're wasting opportunity and you're leaving money on the table.
I think that especially for smaller businesses, digital marketing can be cost effective compared to a traditional marketing way. The other thing that could also be a benefit for them is that, as Mark said, it is quite a targeted approach. You can find your audience and you can cater to them, your content in a more personalized way. There's also such a thing as a business starting, it is very important to have that credibility. And if you do not have that digital presence, even if you do not have an active social media, that's almost already a minus points for you.
I think the point that Debbie was making there about being cost effective, cost efficient is really important as well. As a small business, I think the instant go-to is it's going to cost me lots of money. I don't have enough money, etc. It doesn't cost you anything to create an organic social profile. There's a little bit of your time to invest, but other than that, it doesn't cost anything else. There's obviously slight investments that need to be made in terms of a website and stuff like that. But there again are cost-effective ways to create websites. As a digital agency, we're not advocating for the do-it-yourself builders like Squarespace and stuff like that. But if you are starting out and you cannot afford a design development agency, there's nothing wrong with creating a presence on one of those platforms. One of the key points is, if you are a small business, is don't be afraid of the fact these things cost lots of money. They don't. You can be creative with the way that you do invest, and there are lots of things that you can be doing that cost very little.
If we look at this from a local marketing point of view, I know for me, if I go and try to use a service locally and the website is linking to a Facebook page, it makes me less comfortable than even if that links to a very, very basic Squarespace page. Other tools are available. Kieran, what common mistakes do you see people make when it comes to putting together a digital marketing strategy?
You're just not nailing your data. Your CRM is so important for this, being able to manipulate your data pots via persona, physical, location, demographics, products.
Just remember, it's not a one-time effort. I think a lot of small businesses enter the digital marketing space. They might try a few Google ads and then it doesn't work after a couple of months and they stop. They do a bit of social media and that doesn't seem to do anything, and then they stop. They write a blog and then that doesn't work. This isn't a case of dip your toes in and it's going to work instantly. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic wand. It's a continuous effort. You have to invest time, a bit of money, and then kind of monitor, adapt, and innovate to keep that business growing in the right trajectory.
Just to wrap everything up, and I'm going to only ask one of you, and whoever puts their hand up first gets answered. What tip can we send people away with right now to help them improve their digital marketing strategy? Kieran?
Listen to your customers, review your engagement, always be prepared to adjust your spend on a daily basis, and ask for help from anyone, including us.
Pitch alert, there needs to be a klaxon there. Cool, on to our second topic today. And this is a topic that has really been bumbling about for a while, with a lot of people pretending to know a lot of people not knowing a lot. And I want us to just simplify it a little bit. I'm not going to send you away to tell you this is how you tackle it. I think it's just about simplifying it a little bit. And we're looking at cookies here. And I want us to just have a little back to basics on what they are, what they do, and also try and just take away some of the fear mongering. And with us on the panel today, we have Mark Bunnell from our email team again, and we have Jason Morris, who is our SEO marketing manager as well. Let's kick off with you, Mark. Can we have a basic rundown of what cookies are and what they do?
They're essentially little snippets of text formatted as HTML that are dropped on web pages and dropped from the page to your device that you're viewing the web page on. And depending on their purpose, they might analyze what you're doing, they might track your behaviors, they might predict future behaviors, or they might just let someone know where you've been. They can actually do some helpful things as well, like a website remember who you are, so that if you want to fill out a form, it can remember that and it can put the details in for you. So although cookies are often seen as the enemy and the death of privacy, actually some of them are quite good.
Anything to add to that, Jason?
Just touching on that, all those points are massive for analytics. So understanding the user's behavior, you get it not just on your site, but for other sites, how they've traveled through the internet, where they've come from, how they like their search results, things like that.
And when it comes to first party and third party, can we have a very quick breakdown of what is first party compared to what is third party?
I always feel bad for second party who just get left out of the discussion entirely.
Yes, let's talk second party too.
I have no idea what second party even is.
Someone get on Google quickly.
So first party cookies are things that basically the site owner is essentially using. So if you go on brewdigital.com, there will be a cookie from Brew Digital, and that is a first party cookie. However, if there's a Facebook cookie on there as well that's trying to follow you around the internet, that would be a third party cookie. It's from literally a third party that's not the website owner. It's third party cookies that are kind of the big talking point and are being deprecated by Google, although they're already deprecated elsewhere. They have been for a few years.
A second party cookie, apparently, this is straight from Google, just so we've got that thrown in here as well, is the information gathered from the website you visited will be shared with another site because of an agreed upon data exchange between the two sites. Second party cookies gather the same information as first party cookies. There you go. When we talk about cookies at the moment, the big news story is Google is phasing out third party cookies, right? We've been talking about this now for, it must be going on 2 years. What does that mean? Should people be scared of this, or is it a good thing?
I was going to say, I get to feel smug, and because I work in CRM, we work in almost exclusively first-party cookies as well. So nothing really. I do, however, feel for Hayden, you, and the rest of the paid colleagues around the world. That obviously this means that we aren't going to be able to do so much things like HubSpot isn't going to be able to track people, LinkedIn, things like that aren't going to be able to track people. So targeting options are going to be drastically reduced in terms of things like finding lookalikes and that, I imagine. Yeah, in certain parts of digital marketing, there's not going to be an awful lot of impact. But those that are relying on third parties to broaden their efforts beyond the first party, that's where I think people are going to potentially struggle.
When it comes to using third-party cookies, actually, Mozilla, Safari, those browsers, people using those browsers, which is probably around 30 to 40%, but people who are not using Google Chrome, which is a significant part of the internet, actually, cookies haven't been available for a long time. So this isn't an issue that is going to impact you this year when it comes to paid media. This is an issue that has been happening for the last however long. Targeting is one thing, but actually I think LinkedIn came out with a stat recently. It was like 60% of third-party cookie data is accurate anyway. So losing that much by losing cookies, I think the reason that it's being pushed as this end of world thing is because with one technology being phased out, there's an opportunity for replacement technologies, and that's a market opportunity for people. I think where it will be more challenging is going to be on measuring performance of your campaigns, and that's something that you may need additional tools for. Just rolling through into that kind of talking about companies taking advantage of cookie sunsetting, do you think there's going to be a big need for loads of new software to tackle this? Or do you think people are just being marketed to?
Yeah, of course they are. Like we said about Blue Monday last month, was a thing that was made up to be a marketing ploy and to sell holidays. Very much the sunsetting is a ploy to sell new technology that people don't need. But ad networks wanting to maintain market share by doing a new thing, who would have thought? It's not like they inflate and bloat their metrics and lie to their users at all. But yeah, it's, as you said, they've already not existed on mobile browsers and more niche desktop browsers for years. It really is, although Google has that massive market share, it's still not the be-all and end-all, and there have been solutions on the other networks for years, so those solutions are still apply. People have definitely made, I think, more of it than needs to be in an effort of trying to cash in on something new.
We've mentioned it already, first-party data. And when we look at this from a paid media point of view, first-party data is actually kind of been the key to, or the cheat code for high-performing campaigns for a long time. If you've got good first-party data, you can feed that to the platforms, you can create solid audiences throughout your customer journey. Firstly, can we have a little bit of an explanation of what first-party data is? And then can we have kind of a tip each, just on how someone can make sure that they use theirs and make the most of it? Mark, I feel like you may be best to just talk first-party data.
Yeah, so first-party data is anything you are directly giving to a website yourself. So if you're filling out the contact form on brewdigital.com to ask us to help you with your marketing strategy, that's first-party data. You are directly giving that to us. The first-party stuff is very much the direct go-to stuff. It really should be the bread and butter of what most people are using, because it's the most accurate. The people involved are actually giving it to you themselves, and is most likely the most accurate that way. It's not being filtered through different networks.
Anything you want to add with regards to kind of tips on how people can look after their first-party data in the best way?
Oh, looking after first-party data. Make sure you get a reliable CRM. Invest in that. It is worth doing. A lot of the big providers do provide free or very cheap starter kind of tiers to work with that kind of give you a scope to build and grow. And obviously, as you grow and get bigger, they start to charge you. But yeah, that's probably the best tip. Make sure you find somewhere reliable to do it. Don't try and manage all your data out of a spreadsheet. It's going to do you badly in the end.
Google are rolling out third-party deprecation. I think it actually happens tomorrow. We're recording this on the 31st of January. It happens on the 1st of February.
Different thing they're doing on the 1st of February. Cookie deprecation has started for the first 1%, and we'll roll out later in the year. Tomorrow's Google change is all about email authentication.
There you go. Do your research, team. That deprecation to the 1% though, what does that mean for general marketers? Is it something to worry about, or is it just something to kind of keep an eye on?
You haven't heard of any major panic yet, and you've got to feel if it had all gone horribly wrong, some of the bigger people that have been invested would have been shouting very loudly about it and demanding Google roll back. The fact we've not heard any massive panics suggests it's a good start. That's definitely why they've done it to that 1% as well as a testing group. So it's good to not hear anything almost.
Cool. On to our third topic. Data is boring. No one wants your raw data. Here, we're going to look at how you can take raw data, be that data that comes from surveys, data taken from your customers, and actually turn it into interesting and educational, entertaining content. Hopefully with examples as well. This is usually where we talk about a campaign, so I do want you guys to pull in some examples of companies you've seen do this really well. On our panel today, we have Rich Harper coming back from our first topic, our head of digital marketing services, Kieran and Debbie, actually all coming back from our first topic. We've got quite a small pool of people today, but they're all superstars. So let's kick things off. One at a time, can you walk me through an example of where you've seen a company presenting data in an interesting and engaging way? I'd love to do like a rock, paper, scissors on who goes first, but I feel like that's just wasting time. So I'm going to go Debbie.
Yeah, this actually came in at the good timing because we are currently preparing for another pitch. So I am in love with WeTransfer's ideas reports. I would love for you guys to check it out and have a comparison between their 2021 report and their 2022 report. And it just basically showcases to you how much WeTransfer understands their users. 2021 report showcases much more of a dynamic scrolling type of landing page that basically visualizes the data that came out of the report. And then comparing that with 2022, which is a bit more interactive and plays a part with the societal, is it a myth? Is it like a true reports? I think it also tries to engage with the users with some tools and features. It's just great.
Kieran, can you take us next, please?
One of the ones which I was, I really enjoyed and has stuck in my mind was WWF, not the wrestling one, but their climate change video, which it's a hand-drawn animated whiteboard video, basically, about doom and gloom about climate change, but actually talking about the things to celebrate. It's all around the Paris Accord and so on. But the storytelling is fantastic that you don't even realize you're being given a huge amount of data. I mean, it helps that William Shatner is doing the voiceover for it. But I found that to be such an engaging way of presenting quite a lot of dry data, but in just this fabulously interesting way.
Rich, what's your campaign?
I will refer back to something we talked about previously. This topic, it would be wrong not to mention Spotify Wrapped as an ideal campaign in terms of presenting data that they already have. It's not survey data. It's not them having to do anything extra. The data already exists. I, for one, and the rest of the team hopefully agree. Last year, we couldn't wait for Spotify Wrapped to come out, and it became a kind of competition to see who'd listened to the most hours of music and what percentage of listeners were you in terms of how much you consume. And that therefore turns into an amazing social campaign, people snipping that, copying it, sharing it online. So that representation of data, I think Spotify have absolutely got it bang on.
For listeners, Tom was the highest volume of music listened to in the team. For all three of you now, and just because this is popping into my head because of that Spotify campaign, what company that has copied Spotify has made you go, what are you doing? I know for me, I'll start while you guys think, because I put you on the spot. Trainline. I got a Spotify Wrapped from Trainline telling me how many hours I spent on a train, what my CO2 saving was from not driving. They didn't tell me how many minutes I'd wasted waiting on delays or how much money I was able to claim back from delay repay. But yeah, that one really made me giggle.
I can't really think of one at the moment off the top of my head. I'm just going through the ones I received, and I got like a Wrapped from Monzo in terms of my spending habits, which actually was quite insightful. I clearly spend way too much money in Starbucks, as people on this call will probably attest to, seeing me on most mornings with a Starbucks in my hand. That was pretty good. And also Strava, they were pretty good at it. I think people that are into their fitness and stuff like that, again, it kind of, I guess, to answer your point, I don't have a bad example, but the ones that are good are ones that kind of evolve or revolve around your social aspect, music, society, that sort of thing, fitness, spending, that sort of, they really work. And to your point, something like Trainline, do I need to know how many trains I've been on in the year? Probably not. This goes back to a point note that we made in a previous part of this podcast about the copycat side of things. Just because one company or one brand has done something and it's successful, it's almost an indicator for every other brand and company to go, that works for them, let's copy it and do the same thing. But guess what? It doesn't work for everybody. And it works for Spotify because they do it well. They already have the data, and it's really interesting for their users. If you don't have the data, or your data is not particularly interesting and there's not much of a story to tell, don't tell it.
Love that. Another one that I did get, donating blood. It didn't give me my individual stats. It gave me the entire stats. So when I read it, I was like, how much blood have I given this year? Shit. Just to wrap things up, where can companies find unique data that can feed their customer success stories and their marketing?
You can look externally. I would look at YouGov and Answer the Public. They are the two ones that I found the most trustworthy, reliable. They tend to have quite large data pots. And with Answer the Public, you can also rip the data and drop them into your own spreadsheets and so on, which is helpful. Surveys. If you've done your own surveys in the past, that's always good. for finding that unique data, because you can get qualitative data, actual genuine answers to queries rather than just something from your drop down. Your social media analytics are also good. And then obviously there's your CRM, which is a wonderful place to be looking at all the data that you need.
Our final topic today is looking at navigating remote working, being efficient, being human, and keeping your team as happy as possible wherever they are in the globe. In our panel today, we have Tom Innes, who is our wonderful copywriter. We have Salfi Noor, who is part of our social media team. And we also have Jason Morris. Let's kick things off. What are the benefits and negatives of working remotely?
Well, I'll start with the benefits of working remotely. It's that you are not going to be stuck in traffic, having to commute. That's always great. You're here to pick up parcels. Also wonderful. And I think that kind of, well, actually, no, there's just like, how much of myself do I reveal on this podcast? What I really love about working from home is that I can roll out of bed, put on some clothes, flick the kettle on, and be at work within 7 minutes. I couldn't do that if I had to go into an office every day. And those of you who work with me already know that I am barely functional in the morning as is. And if you force me to get up, have me sit in traffic for an hour to come into the office, you're not going to get anything out of me except venom and malice.
I think we were speaking earlier about a similar thing and how everyone's routines are different and different things are huge benefits to some people from the remote working. Salfi, let's go to you. What do you see as the benefits and negatives of working remotely?
I think since Tom talked about like the benefits, I think I just tried to kind of talk on not so much negative, but I would say the challenges, I guess. Well, same like Tom. So I guess I don't want to reveal too much to the listeners, but I'm not based in the UK. I'm based in Malaysia. So in terms of that, like I basically work with people in the UK, Europe region, and sometimes even North America. So as far as how the flexibility is great, up to me what time I want to start, as long as I get everything done, my hours are done. But sometimes the hours can kind of be like, I work for 4 hours and then that's a long break. And then I continue working again until late night to just kind of like make it happen. So I would say it's just kind of like challenges. It's not really for everybody. Like in my case, I don't have babies, kids, whatever. So it works for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Salfi. And I'm going to throw it over to you now, Jason, for your benefits and negatives.
Cool. So the benefits for me are I spend a lot of time with my camper van. Same as having it outside. You can go and work on it in lunch times, things like that. So I quite like that. I have a dog and he's very selfish and he likes a lot of attention. That helps that I'm around. Negatives, I guess time with the team is good, but was also a pro. Some of the pros can be negatives as well. So I quite like a big meetup like once a month or something. That's nice. Lots of Zooms, I guess, is a negative. I think people get Zoom fatigue quite quickly.
That's Zoom is a really, really interesting point. And I'm going to jump to a question that I was going to ask at the end. But for those companies that don't have the ability to meet up often, Zoom is often the only way to maintain team culture. How do you think you can do that effectively without having that Zoom drain, that exhaustion from being on Zoom too much?
Part of it will come down to who is actually in your team. Like your team culture is reliant on having a solid team. You need effective managers who are able to curate that culture well. I think it's about being cognizant of people's Zoom fatigue and not feeling as though you have to install a culture through Zoom. Like we don't have that many Zoom meetings as a team collectively. And when we do, it's not always just about work, but it's about trusting your employees to feel like they can come to you when they need to talk, but not forcing a conversation upon them as well, because not everybody wants to sit on Zoom all day.
I think like on my end, I feel like most people on this call already know that sometimes I randomly like work on a coffee shop or something like that. So I think that's just some little things that goes back to the benefits of the flexibility. Sometimes if you need to change your workspace so you don't feel like you're just stuck having the same call at your home over and over again, just go out, work somewhere else. And even if you still have to take calls, then at least you can tell your coworkers, like, oh, I'm at this coffee shop and all, just tiny little things that you could switch up your routine a bit.
Jason, anything to add to that?
I guess for me, it's kind of how you manage it yourself as well. So you could look at it as Zoom fatigue or whatever. But if you're having regular breaks once an hour and you're managing your time a bit better, you're putting your computer in a different part of the house, things like that. It's how you manage it, I guess. It's not negative for all people and it's not positive for all people. It's how you manage it yourself.
That leads me on to talking a little about being human. And I think this goes both ways. I know as a manager, being human is really important in allowing the team to actually, do you know what? If they don't want the camera on, they don't need to have it on. It's okay for me to have the camera off on any situation and don't have to talk about that. What is one thing that you find helps you be your best self when you're working remotely?
I think just really section your time really well, because like when you work remotely, just remember you have the flexibility benefit. So just remember, block your time, go outside, block your time to go to the gym, block your time to spend some time with your kids, dogs, cats, or whatever, because I feel like that's your flexibility. Try to like enjoy the benefits more. So if you block your time nicely, then at least you won't feel just work at home all day.
I think this is encompassing a lot of the things that people have already said around time management and being aware of yourself. But something I've observed, I've only ever worked remotely, so I've had to learn discipline over time. But especially during COVID, a lot of people were learning to work from home for the first time. And the thing I constantly saw people doing was failing to switch off. That leaving of the office is like closing the book, so to speak, and that is the end of your workday. Whereas when you are at home, it's very easy to just keep working another couple of hours. When I first started, I would get up at 10 in the morning and I would still be working 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. So just learning your limits and learning to know when is enough and closing the laptop and walking away from it is really important with remote work.
If you're a manager in this situation as well, actually making sure that you do check that people are switching off. I think when we talk about checking on people when they're remote working, a lot of people look at it as in checking to make sure people are working. I think if you're hiring correctly, your people will be working. They will want to work. They will have projects to work on. So you don't have to worry about that. But actually checking in to make sure that they're not doing late nights, they're not working on weekends, is one of the most important things I think you need to do as a manager of a remote team. Adding to that, I think trust is something that's really, really important. How can we instill trust into businesses if we are maybe just starting out or if we're kind of in that growth period, whether we're office-based or remote-based?
It requires a cultural shift, to be honest. If you've only ever worked in an office and then you're suddenly saying, okay, you can work from home or you can work remotely, wherever that may be, it does require a completely different mindset. I don't think it's something that you can just develop overnight unless you have got a really solid relationship with your team. You just have to trial and error it ultimately while you are going through that period of transition. And then, as you said, if your team are motivated, they're going to want to work, they're going to have projects to do, and it will be apparent those who are working and those who aren't based on the result that you end up seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you have that conversation. But otherwise, you've hired this team, you're paying this team, you need to feel confident allowing them to do the work that you've hired them to do.
It's really worth considering. And I think we may have mentioned this on the last podcast, that not everyone is at 100% every day. It's impossible to expect that. Having the human side to not expect 100% from people, encouraging them to actually, if they're having one of those days that are crap, go for a walk, go and do the things that you enjoy, re-energize yourself. But also with that, my brain is just not working. It's literally one of those days where I'm running at about 20%. There you go. I'm going to drop it and leave it there. Depending on how I have edited this, you may or may not realize just how much of a car crash this podcast episode really was. And I think that's okay. That's cool. Do you know what? Because not everything goes perfectly. And there's still going to be some absolute gems in this session. I'm going to finish up just saying thank you to everyone for their research and all of the effort that everyone put in. Thank you, listeners. We hope you found the useful snippets in there and are able to go put them into your own work, and hopefully making remote work a little bit easier, and also to help you be a little bit kinder to yourself, because we are all probably our own worst enemies sometimes. I really enjoy that you've made it this far through the listen. We love making this content, and if you could just go and recommend it to even one friend that you think would enjoy listening, that would mean the world to us. Make sure to go check out our past episodes, subscribe on whatever platform you use to listen to your podcasts, and we will see you on the next one. I've been Hayden, and these guys are the marketers of the universe.